I literally can't hide my excitement about the latest trailer for Spider-Man Brand New Day because that video promises everything that the comic book fans could have asked for. Not only do we have the Punisher on board, there's also the Scorpion and other villains like the Hand challenging our friendly neighborhood hero as he struggles to come to terms with his new life. For me, the most interesting part of the trailer is the transformation phase of Spider-Man that's been hinted at, where he struggles with his physical changes, like a second spider puberty. But will it really turn to the body horror elements of that storyline? I mean, the comic book universe does have a long history of uncontrolled mutations suffered by Peter Parker, and we thought this might be a good time to explore those instances across the comic books and animated shows. The Six-Armed Saga. Amazing Spider-Man number 100 to 102, 1971. This is the original and probably the most iconic mutation story. Here, Peter is desperate to give up being Spider-Man and he creates a serum that can potentially eliminate his powers. However, it ends up backfiring, causing him to grow 4 extra arms and giving him 8 limbs in total. This comic book creation by the legendary Stan Lee explores the terrifying situation for Peter as he seeks a new cure and encounters Morbius the living vampire, whose enzyme accidentally reverses the mutation combined with a serum that Peter had prepared. It all starts with Peter finding his daily tasks as the friendly neighborhood superhero monotonous. He longs to spend more time with Gwen and wonders if he's actually missing out on life by being too busy with his vigilante duties all the time. Peter also knows that deep down, Gwen Stacy still blames Spider-Man for her father's death, and he's not sure how long he could keep up with the whole secret identity gig after they get married someday. This is when he decides to stop being Spider-Man forever, and his theory is simple. In order for Peter Parker to truly live, Spider-Man must die. It's then revealed that he's been working on a potion that could make him normal again, and he anticipated that such a day would come. He had finished making the potion months ago, and now he finally tests it on himself by consuming the whole thing. Immediately, he feels like something is wrong when he experiences something similar to 1,000,000 explosions in his brain. He decides to sleep it off, but the effects of the potion cause some vivid dreams and nightmares where he sees everything from the death of his uncle, his own guilt about being unable to save Gwen's father, and even encounters villains like the Vulture, the Lizard, and Doc Ock. Finally, Spidey wakes up and realizes that the pain has only worsened, but the worst shock is yet to come. He opens his outer shirt, revealing that Peter has grown 4 new hands, giving him a total of 8 limbs just like a spider. He's caught in a fix because he never expected the potion to fail in the first place, and thus he never developed an antidote. He sees himself as a freak now, and we think this is one of the lowest we've ever seen Peter Parker. And that's saying something. Peter gets a call from Gwen, who wants to spend the day with him, but he rejects her outright by claiming to be out of town. He also wonders what Aunt May will say about his monstrous mutation and whether she'll have a heart attack after seeing him like this. The only good thing is that he still has his sense of humor as he thinks of a potential cure. He also calls Dr. Connors for help because he knows a thing or two about such unexpected mutations ever since his original stint as the Lizard, and Connors asks him to head down to his place where he even has a working lab. The next part of the story arc introduces Morbius the vampire, and guess where he ends up sleeping through the day? Yup, the same building as Connors' lab, and we already know that a meeting between the two is inevitable. Morbius eventually attacks Spider-Man and almost pins him down before Dr. Connors arrives. The thrill and excitement of the situation turns him into the Lizard, and he fights Morbius over the right to kill Spider-Man. The Lizard is bitten by Morbius, and the latter escapes, even though Spider-Man put trackers on the vampire. Meanwhile, he realizes that the bite of Morbius has injected an enzyme that has turned the Lizard more human. In a violent final confrontation with Morbius, Spider-Man manages to get a hold of the enzyme that can cure him of his mutation. And it does. The extra hands disappear like magic, and Parker is back to his normal human self. The story ends with a moral lesson on how Morbius couldn't change himself back to his human form, and Peter could, because one needs to face his inner monsters at times to emerge out of it stronger. Nevertheless, we find this to be a rather fascinating transformation story featuring Spider-Man, but there are many others. Spider-Man in the Savage Land. Marvel Fanfare number 2. This particular transformation feels significant because it marks the first full spider-monster transformation that has been referred to as the feral man-spider. I gotta admit, I'm not a huge fan of the artwork in this one because things could have been more detailed and visually appealing, but it's still a good story. It all starts when Peter Parker accompanies Angel, aka Warren Worthington III, and Tanya Anderson to the Savage Land. Their mission is to search for Karl Lykos, better known as the villain Sauron, and Peter is there as a photographer for the Daily Bugle. However, things take an unplanned turn when the helicopter they were traveling in crashes after being attacked by a pterosaur. They are then captured by Magneto's Savage Land mutates, led by Brainchild. Spider-Man and Angel are strapped to a machine in Zaladain's Citadel, and this transforms the subjects. Tanya is able to escape, but she's attacked by a T-Rex and faces certain death until Kazar and his saber-toothed tiger Zabu come to the rescue. But later, they're attacked by Zaladain's forces, and this time, they're joined by Angel in his new monstrous form, who's been turned into a giant eagle-like creature. Also, Spider-Man has now been transformed into a terrifying six-limbed spider-like beast. They're both mind-controlled as well, and the transformed Angel kidnaps Tanya, flying off with her towards the Citadel. Spider-Man's appearance in this transformed state is truly memorable. He turns into this massive bestial figure with extra limbs, fangs, and arachnid features, and there's not a shred of humanity left in him. He even loses his speech, while his strength and ferocity become insane. Along with the mutated Angel, he nearly defeats the Fall People warriors, and even though somewhere deep down Spider-Man tries to fight his mutation, it doesn't work. Eventually, Kazar, Lykos, and their allies track the kidnappers to the Citadel, and Vertigo uses her disorienting powers to stop them as Brainchild begins the transformation on Tanya. Ultimately, Kazar and the warriors emerge as the winners, and they destroy the transformation machine before the fight. Spider-Man gets lucky because Lykos is able to drain the excess mutant energy from Tanya, Spider-Man, and Angel, which restores them all to their human forms. Unfortunately, the reversal of the mutation process comes at a cost because the energy overload transforms Lykos back into the vampiric pterodactyl Sauron, who then flies off declaring war. While Peter and Angel depart the Savage Land, Tanya stays back to help Lykos. The Queen Arc. Spectacular Spider-Man number 15 through 20, 2003. The Spider Queen, whose real name is Adriana Saria, is a familiar antagonist in the Marvel Universe, but what she does in this particular story arc is nightmarish for the Spider-Man fans. She can be seen in a beautiful black dress, and you have to admit she looks absolutely stunning here, but her introduction to the story is rather dramatic as she takes control of a large portion of New York's citizens with her powers and then has them follow her through the city. Her presence also makes Peter's spider sense go crazy, and he immediately starts bleeding from his nose and ears before following the source to a Manhattan high-rise. This was deemed a big enough crisis for S.H.I.E.L.D. to summon Captain America, and by the time Spider-Man reaches them, the Queen had already taken over the high-rise. She controlled anyone she could and killed or drove out those she couldn't. There's a badass scene where she brings down a helicopter sent to negotiate with her just by whispering the word down. Captain America warns Spider-Man against a frontal assault, but he ignores those warnings and crawls up the building to take on the Queen all by himself. Well, that's not the smartest decision, and Spider-Man soon finds out that the Queen can be quite a handful. They engage in a brief fight, but the webbing isn't strong enough for her, and she lands a powerful kick to his face and makes him joke about how it feels like he's in high school. Then, she hits him with a powerful sonic scream, which makes him drop to the floor, clutching his head in pain. However, she's still impressed by his strength and witty comebacks, even in the face of danger. As her drones restrain Spider-Man, she takes down Cap too when he comes to Spidey's rescue. Finally, Spider-Man challenges her to fight him without her drones, and she obliges with another sonic scream that knocks him unconscious from pain. What happens next is the truly unexpected part, as the Queen pulls him closer for a kiss, and when Spider-Man wakes up later, the Queen tries to seduce him directly and tells him about her desire to mate with him. He does his best to resist her advances, but the kisses have an effect on him and he starts kissing back. Fortunately, he's able to regain control just in time and forces her off of him, and the Queen is furious at this behavior. She leaves after telling him that he'll love her whether he wants to or not, and he's left behind in the dark. The fight does continue, but what really troubles Spider-Man is the mutation that he experiences after this encounter. He slowly begins to transform into a giant spider mutant with fangs, 8 arms, and 4 eyes, and there's really nothing humanoid about his appearance anymore. He then tries to stand up to the Queen, but is defeated once again in spite of his mutation. The transformation eventually makes him look like a giant spider, but this new form is rather unstable, and it dies unexpectedly. The Queen mourns the untimely death, but Spider-Man emerges from the spider corpse and this time he seems to be more muscular and stronger with organic webs. He even sabotages the bomb that she's set to detonate, and then another confrontation finally sees Spider-Man winning the duel as he leaves her trapped in her own lair as S.H.I.E.L.D. attacks. This transformation crisis may have been short-lived, but it was a shocking sight to witness our favorite superhero in such a creepy, crawly, arachnid form. Amazing Spider-Man number 437, Plantman Mutation. I'm willing to bet that a lot of you have seen Spider-Man's epic transformation in the animated series, which we're going to explore later in this video. However, this comic book incident is considered a key precursor that directly inspired the animated series Mutation storyline. This story starts off rather innocently as we get a sneak peek into another day in the life of Peter Parker. He juggles his academics, his marriage to MJ, and his job as a reporter, aside from his superhero duties. This morning, he comes across a group of thugs attempting to rob a young man, and he's quick to ruin the plans by taking them down and saving the young fellow before swinging away. It all seems normal enough before the young man reveals that even though he looks like an average teenager, he's actually a mutant and a member of Generation X. His mutant powers allow him to temporarily take over the abilities of nearby mutants, but that wouldn't have come in handy while fighting a group of thugs, and he's thankful that Spidey popped up when he did. Meanwhile, we see another mutant who starts to communicate with the plants, and it turns out that he's the Plantman. Surprise! The plants have found his chosen prey, and they're already transmitting his location, and Plantman wants his revenge on Generation X, starting with Sync, the mutant saved by Spider-Man earlier. Sync is attacked, and he's taken by surprise when a simple plant uses its special mutagenic pollen against him. On the other hand, Spider-Man takes on another out-of-control mutant, and as he tries to understand why the mutant is acting that way, the Plantman bursts from the ground. He's taken into a world of special plants that try to attack him, and eventually he's restrained by random vines and trees. It's then revealed that the mutant Spider-Man was fighting earlier was a transformed Sync, and even though Plantman has an antidote for the effects of the mutagen, he doesn't plan on sharing it with Sync or Spider-Man, both of whom have been restrained in a similar manner. Meanwhile, Spider-Man starts to transform as well, and his hands are replaced by talons, and he grows multiple eyes. The physical changes work all over his body, but he still tries to fight back, even as Plantman unleashes the roots of a sturdy banyan tree to bring him down. As Spider-Man continues to fight the plant army against all odds, he gets an unexpected helping hand from Sync, who regains his senses. He uses his mutant abilities to develop the powers of Spider-Man, and this proves to be too much for Plantman and his plans. Eventually, he's cornered and blackmailed into revealing the location of his antidote. Spidey regains his original self within an hour, and it's a happy ending, even though things could have gone horribly wrong for Spidey without a timely intervention from Sync. The Other Amazing Spider-Man, Marvel Knights Spider-Man, 2005 to 2006. This is a rather extensive crossover arc that explores Amazing Spider-Man, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and Marvel Knights Spider-Man, 3 ongoing series that were coming out around the same time. This one might actually be the closest transformation to the events of the Brand New Day trailer because one of the scenes is exactly the cover art of one of the comic books. The crossover event starts with Dr. Castillo, who diagnoses terminal radiation sickness from Peter's powers. Spider-Man battles Tracer's robots as his abilities fail, and Morlun taunts him, preferring to watch his decay. Peter shares his fears with Mary Jane, consults Mr. Fantastic, Dr. Banner, who's a similar radiation victim, and even Black Panther, but nothing really helps. Enraged, he nearly kills the enforcer Ox, mistaking him for the much more powerful Morlun, and Daredevil intervenes. Even Doctor Strange refuses magical aid, urging acceptance of death. The story takes a violent turn as Morlun ambushes Spidey, smashing through J. Jonah Jameson's office into Empire State University. An epic brawl ensues, and Spidey briefly dominates, but Morlun rips out his left eye, pummeling him unconscious. When the police interrupt, Morlun flees. Paramedics rush the near-dead hero to the hospital. The Avengers and Mary Jane arrive to a grim prognosis, but Morlun sneaks in, hurling MJ and breaking her arm. Peter awakens in a feral state with fangs and wrist stingers. He impales Morlun's arms, bites out his throat, and kills him. He bids MJ goodbye and collapses, clinically dead. Iron Man hides the body, and the new Avengers discuss Peter with Spider-Woman, who has similar spider DNA powers. However, it's Peter Parker, and of course he's not dead. His husk empties, and a crash reveals that the spider essence survived, killing Morlun's human target. Under the Brooklyn Bridge, Peter forms a cocoon and is plagued by visions urging unity of his human and spider sides. This little web cocoon, it reminds us a lot of the scene from the trailer in Brand New Day. Finally, Peter emerges human-like, but pirate spiders animate his shed skin into a monstrous husk. He battles and finally wins. Post-fight, he embraces his new abilities like organic webbing, night vision, vibration sense, and back adhesion for carrying survivors from rubble. He rescues some victims, returns to MJ, and the news hails him a hero. Tony Stark even crafts a new costume, ending Peter's primal evolution, and we have a feeling that we'll see small parts of this story arc in the movie, even though the circumstances are completely different. Spider-Man, the Animated Series, Season 2, Mutation Crisis Arc, 1994 to 95. I think we can all agree that this is one of the best animated Spider-Man adaptations, and this iconic 90s series also captures an amazing mutation story arc across a few episodes. The episode titled The Mutant Agenda starts off with Spider-Man extremely scared about the mutations that Curt Connors has told him about. He's apparently going to experience some major changes, and in order to find answers, he heads to the Xavier Mansion, hoping to find answers from Professor X, the world's leading expert on genetic mutation. However, the meeting doesn't go exactly as planned because, first of all, he's apprehended by the X-Men, who demand to know why he's there. Secondly, the Sentinels launch an attack and the Xavier Mansion turns into a chaotic battleground. Eventually, the Sentinels are defeated and the X-Men surround Spider-Man before Professor X orders them to stop. He asks Spider-Man why he's here, and Spidey tells him how he's apparently mutating into something and he doesn't know what. He asks for a cure, but Xavier explains that his whole agenda has been to train mutants and help them accept their mutations instead of curing them. This isn't the answer Spidey's looking for, and he leaves in frustration. However, Beast reaches out to him and says that he can cure Spider-Man. Later, it's revealed that Herbert Landon has developed a cure for this specific type of mutation, and this might be a huge help to Spider-Man. But during this conversation between Beast and Spidey, they're being watched, and moments after Spider-Man leaves, Beast is taken captive. The plot thickens further with the Hobgoblin in the picture, and the X-Men suspect Spider-Man is behind Beast's disappearance. Meanwhile, Landon has plans to test his mutant cure on Beast to prove its efficiency. It's later revealed that Landon's real plan is to kill all mutants, and together with Wolverine, Spider-Man goes to investigate his facility. After loads of action, it all ends amicably, and Landon gets the punishment he deserves, and it seems like Spider-Man's mutant problem is handled for now. Later on in the series, though, the episode titled Enter the Punisher gives you the worst of his mutation saga, as Peter Parker has now grown 4 extra arms and is terrified about these new physical changes. After evading Aunt May, Spider-Man remains in hiding, but Punisher seeks him out. Peter realized that Mariah Crawford was right about the serum and he took it too early. Now he has a massive headache, and that's the least of his concerns, because Mary Jane wants to meet him and he just can't in this condition. The episode also brings in Morbius, the living vampire, preying upon people, and it's such a compact narrative that you can't keep your eyes off the screen. Spider-Man goes to Dr. Crawford for answers, and she takes his blood sample. Meanwhile, the Punisher wants to bring in Spider-Man alive to prove his innocence. During an encounter with Morbius, Spider-Man tries to fight him in his mutated state, but he fails because there's no coordination between his newly developed limbs. But during this fight, Punisher catches up with him and surrounds him with an energy weapon before putting a tracker on him. Also, Spidey is quite weakened because of his mutating state, and he's captured by the Punisher. Somehow, he manages to break free and goes after Morbius to bring him to justice. Throughout the episode, the mutation worsens for Spider-Man, and during another confrontation with Punisher, he's almost turned into a humanoid spider. In the next episode, titled Duel of the Hunters, Kraven the Hunter steps in to bring the mutated Spider-Man before Dr. Crawford so that he can be cured. He also tries to convince Punisher not to kill him. In his transformed state, Spider-Man sleeps in the subways during the day to stay away from sunlight. Eventually, Punisher and Kraven the Hunter work together as they restrain Spider-Man, now in his man-spider mutation form. Mariah injects him with a cure as they hold him down, and finally, when the sun rises the next day, he's back to his normal avatar, thankful for his new life. However, in the episode Blade the Vampire Hunter, it's learned that Mariah Crawford was only able to reverse his mutation, but not cure it entirely. He can transform back into the Man-Spider anytime, and it seems like Curt Connors has found a way to control his condition. This story also brings in Morbius, who's now being hunted by Blade, and on one occasion, Spider-Man is the one who saves Morbius from certain death. Blade sees Spider-Man as a threat because he's the one who created Morbius in the first place, and the whole thing becomes rather chaotic as Spider-Man wants to find a cure for himself as well as Morbius. The story ends with Morbius permanently mutated into a bat-like creature as he flies off, and it seems like Spider-Man's condition might have finally stabilized. Later on in the series, however, the Vulture accidentally contracts Man-Spider's mutation via his youth-draining technology, and Spider-Man is permanently cured. However, during the Spider-Wars finale, an alternate universe Spider-Man is still dealing with the mutation crisis, fully transforms into Man-Spider during the mission. Ultimate Spider-Man Animated Series. Man-Spider appearance in The Savage Spider-Man. The Ultimate Spider-Man series also had its fair share of terrifying mutations, especially in the episode titled The Savage Spider-Man. In this episode, Spider-Man teams up with Wolverine on a mission to the Savage Land to track down Kazar and rescue his saber-toothed companion Zabu, while also contending with Taskmaster and Kraven the Hunter. The story opens at S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, where Nick Fury and Iron Man brief Spidey on a distress signal they detected from Kazar, who's operating in the Savage Land, an isolated prehistoric region hidden away from the rest of the world. Fury explains that Kazar has vanished, and Zabu, his loyal saber-toothed tiger, has been captured. The mission is to find and retrieve Zabu, which will in turn lead them to Kazar. Because the Savage Land is dangerous and unknown, Fury assigns Wolverine as Peter's partner, warning that the environment is brutal and unforgiving. Spider-Man and Wolverine are dropped into the Savage Land via S.H.I.E.L.D. transport and quickly find themselves surrounded by dinosaurs and hostile wildfire. Peter struggles to adjust to the environment, relying too much on his spider sense and web shooting, while Wolverine takes a more brutal, instinct-driven approach, easily fending off predators and criticizing Peter for being too clean and hesitant. During their trek, they discover clues that someone has been tracking and hunting Kazar and Zabu, pointing to a larger conspiracy. The villains are revealed to be Taskmaster and Kraven, who have infiltrated the Savage Land as part of a plan to capture Zabu and force Kazar into a trap. Taskmaster, known for his superpower of mimicking any fighting style, uses advanced technology and strategy to track the heroes, while Kraven delights in turning the hunt into a deadly game, seeing Spider-Man as a new prey to dominate. They've set up traps and lures throughout the jungle, using Zabu as bait to draw in any would-be rescuers. As Spider-Man and Wolverine close in on the saber-toothed tiger, Peter is exposed to a strange mutagenic substance released by a hidden device left behind by Taskmaster and Kraven. The substance begins to amplify his spider-based instincts, causing his appearance to change slightly, making him more aggressive and feral, transforming him into the Savage Spider-Man. In this state, Peter loses some of his usual restraint, attacking foes with greater ferocity and showing animal-like instincts, which both helps and hinders him in combat. The heroes locate Zabu in a heavily guarded trap set by Taskmaster and Kraven, barely able to move due to energy-dampening technology. Spider-Man and Wolverine launch a coordinated assault. Wolverine uses his claws and berserker strength to break through Kraven's defenses, while Savage Spider-Man's enhanced reflexes and aggression allow him to dodge and counter Kraven's traps more effectively. In the middle of the fight, Kazar arrives, having tracked his own allies' distress, and joins the battle, fighting fiercely to free Zabu and protect his homeland. Spidey, despite his more savage instincts, manages to maintain enough control to use his spider sense and webs creatively, ultimately springing a trap that Kraven didn't anticipate and allowing Wolverine and Kazar to pin Taskmaster. With the villains defeated or forced to retreat, Zabu is freed and reunited with Kazar, who decides to stay in the Savage Land to protect it from further outside threats. Back at S.H.I.E.L.D., Peter reflects on the mission, realizing that his reliance on instinct in the Savage Land mirrored Kazar's own way of life, but also that he must balance his spider side with his humanity. Wolverine, impressed by Peter's adaptability, acknowledges that Spider-Man learned to go savage without losing himself, which marks a key step in Peter's growth as the ultimate Spider-Man. We love how this episode ends by reinforcing the theme that Spider-Man's strength lies not just in his powers, but in his refusal to fully surrender to his animalistic instincts, even when pushed to the edge. Now, I know what you're thinking. These transformation scenes are far too dramatic and extreme for the upcoming movie, and yes, it's extremely unlikely that Brand New Day will explore that much body horror, showing Peter changing into an actual man-spider. That being said, some of the scenes, like the one where he wakes up in a cocoon of webbing, clearly suggest that he is losing control over himself somehow. We're sure it's going to be a story of Peter adapting to his new avatar as he emerges stronger following the transformation phase, and I guess the terrifying mutations that you've seen in this video will be a solid reminder of just how vulnerable our favorite superhero can get in these kinds of scenarios. We'd love to hear your take on the upcoming film and Peter's transformation in the comments down below. Also, if you like this video and you want to see more stuff like it, don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons because they really help us out a lot. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and we'll see ya in the next one.